Merry Christmas Eve, everyone, or Merry Christmas to those of you who might be listening to this on Christmas Day. I just wanted to get on here quickly because I am just so um, full of joy. Again, over my shoulder, you probably can see the word joy, those of you who are seeing the video. I'm so full of joy, and I wanted to communicate that with you guys today for a few different reasons. I love Christmas. I've told you this before. Um, this year, especially, I need some baby Jesus in my life, and I got some. I got some already. I wanted to tell you a little bit about a couple of opportunities I've had, and then I wanted to tell you about a story of gratitude that just blew me away. Actually, really, kind of two stories blew me away when I heard them. But first, I want to tell you about an opportunity that I had recently to participate in a Christmas Eve service. So, those of you who don't know, I grew up Catholic and I'm very used to going to midnight mass on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. That is what fills me. I love being out as the day is changing into Christmas Day. And so I try to go to a service like that whenever I can. And when I moved to Oklahoma, I started going to a church called St. Augustine of Canterbury. So Augustine of Canterbury is an Episcopal church in Oklahoma City, and I started going there. And they have a 10 o'clock service. So ever since I have been here in Oklahoma since 2006. I have been going to the 10 o'clock Christmas Eve service at St. Augustine. Even though I go to other services, I go to a service here in Norman at Victory Family Church on Christmas Eve as well, but that's usually in the late afternoon. But I have got to go to a Christmas Eve nighttime service because that's just my jam, guys. And so sometimes they ask me if I would like to participate in the service. And whenever I'm asked, I always say yes because it's such a special time. And they asked this year, and I said yes. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're going to record it because they're not holding church services now because of COVID. So we're going to record it come Tuesday night. And I have to tell you, I was a little disappointed because I really wanted to participate in the service live, as it were, on Christmas Eve. But I totally understand why they wanted to do this. And it was such a beautiful service. And you can watch that service tonight on YouTube at the St. Augustine of Canterbury YouTube channel. And I encourage you to watch it. I encourage you to watch it at the time it's intended at 10 p.m. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure exactly if they're going to air it earlier or not, but I would watch it at 10 p.m. and I will watch it, even though I was in it. I will watch it again. The thing that they asked me to do was to read scripture, and that's something that I love doing. I have participated in a few different roles at St. Augustine. I have been a lector, an intercessor, and also I have been I have actually been at the altar helping during the service. But I love reading the scripture, and I'm actually want to read you from the excerpt that I read on Tuesday night. And I'm going to pick up my bulletin right here. St. Augustine of Canterbury Episcopal Church, traditional candlelight service. And it was a very solemn and holy evening, and it was lovely with brass band and with a beautiful choir, just gorgeous, and with a gorgeous creche that I will post a picture of along with this recording. It was lovely. And so when I open this, and you'll probably hear me opening pages right now, lots of carols. We sang lots of carols, of course. And then came the first lesson. And when I saw what I was going to read and that it was from Isaiah, I knew that it was going to be so special. And I was so honored to read this. So those of you listening via the podcast, you will hear the paper rustling, but I want to read it as if we were actually there. So this is from the Liturgy of the Word, the first lesson, a reading from the book of Isaiah. And this is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 2 through 7. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder. For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. For all the boots of the tramping warriors and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. That is such a beautiful reading. And it starts off leading into what God has given us. But it starts off talking about how the people were in darkness. They were in deep darkness, the prophet Isaiah says. But God, right? But a son has been given to us. And they'll call him Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. It just gives me chills. That's a beautiful, beautiful reading. Of course, we also read the nativity story from Luke, which if you haven't listened to my previous episode, please do, because I read from Matthew and from Luke about the angel visitations and about the birth. But this verse from Isaiah, it reminds us that Jesus was foretold years and years and years before the nativity story, before the birth. God put on the hearts of the prophets that there was someone coming that was going to save this nation. And it was Jesus, and Isaiah is the one who said that it was to be a son given to us. It's so beautiful. And so I wanted to share that with you and encourage you to read that verse, read that chapter from Isaiah, and if you can, to watch the St. Augustine traditional program Christmas Eve on YouTube, if you can. Or if you can't, I hope you are able to go to some kind of Christmas service. For me, and I'd say my family too, it is just not the same if I can't be in the house of God and worship Him on this very special night. And so even though I won't be physically in that house, I was there a couple of days ago, but I certainly will transform myself back there, right? And remember what it was like when I was there Tuesday night. But I will do that tonight, and I hope you will too. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of stories, but the first one is really one of gratitude. And actually, I just heard about this. So you may have seen that I posted the top 20 podcast episodes of the Positively Joy podcast by downloads. So the ones who've been downloaded the most. And if you haven't, it's on Spotify. In fact, I will try to put that link here into the recording, or the notes. And the first one, and I knew it was going to be the first one because she has a very, very, she's popular and she has a very large following. It would be the YouTube influencer, the Posh Paper Lady. I love the Posh Paper Lady. I am a paper crafter, so I love what she does. And she has a lot of people who follow her. And so it was probably not unusual that her podcast episode would be the most downloaded. So she was number one. But I was listening to her video today, and she didn't do any crafting today, or at least this one that I saw. It was a very special episode, and I wanted to share that with you, listeners, because I want to encourage you to go and look at that video at the Posh Paper Lady on YouTube. She talked about how not knowing what we do in everyday life can make a difference. And that's the message that I hope you'll get out of it. But her story was unique. So as I said, she's a paper crafter. She appears on her YouTube channel every day, and most days, and she usually makes a craft. But she gets lots of emails, and she says hundreds a day, and she doesn't get a chance to answer most of them, but she saw one that really caught her eye. And when she read the email, it was from a mother of a little boy with autism. And sometimes, as she puts it, and I think as the mother put it in the letter, he is hard to settle. And so one particular time, she was having a real difficult time with him. He was very hard to settle. And she happened to be watching YouTube at the time. And one of the Posh Paper Lady's videos just happened to come on. And she noticed that he began to settle. If you've never watched the Posh Paper Lady, you normally, and sometimes we do now, but before we never saw her face. We just would see her hands working on different crafts. So the mother wasn't sure if it was him watching her hands or if it was her voice. So she decided to do an experiment. And one night, as she was getting him ready for bed, and he was becoming difficult to settle down, she turned on a video, and she only let him listen to the sound, and he settled. So that told her it was the sound of her voice, of the Posh Paper Lady's voice. Her name is Sherry Williams, and but she goes by the Posh Paper Lady. And so this letter was in gratitude. It was to thank Sherry for her channel and for the fact that what she does helps her son. And Sherry replied that she was so surprised. Number one, she had no idea, clearly, that her voice would be soothing to anybody in particular, a little boy with autism. And her message was that we have to realize that whatever we do in our everyday life, we never know how it can be used for good. And I would add for evil. So that is why we almost must do all our things in a godly fashion. We must always lift up everything we do to the Father, because He can use this, as He did with this boy. He can use this for good, for anything. Sherry mentioned her other YouTube influencer colleagues, everybody out there that's making videos, the same thing, that we never know how we can have an impact on someone's life. And I'd like to add that to all the podcasters out there. We never know what we might say or what we might do can really make an impact on someone's life. And so I just thought that was so special to share today on Christmas Eve. We've been given a great gift, and we must thank God, and we must have gratitude. And the gratitude is also to Him who uses everything that we do for blessing other people, and in ways that we will never know. If this young lady had not sent Sherry a message, she never would have known. But I believe that God directed her to write the letter to share with Sherry, that she would share with everybody else so we could hear that message. And that message I'm delivering to you right now. So thank you to the mother, and thank you to Sherry for, for sharing that message. Another story that is a little bit different, but I'm sure that the mother has a lot of gratitude, is back to St. Augustine. So I have to talk a little bit more about St. Augustine. Apparently, a young woman who was pregnant came in their doors a few months ago. As I said, the church is really not open right now for services. And she was pregnant and her water broke. And there was only one person in the church at the time. She is the director of community engagement, and she happened to be there. And so she took her to the hospital, and she got there. I believe she got there in time to have the baby in the hospital. But not only that, she made sure that the woman got some things that she needed. And then the community chipped in and gave the baby a stroller and all kinds of things. And I think there were Christmas presents given. It's such a beautiful story. I know these stories happen in churches a lot because, that's a time when people might come and there's an opportunity for the church to give to someone. But this was a really special one, in particular because it was my church, of course. But my other church, Victory Family Church, does amazing things. Churches are so wonderful, and they use what we give them to help other people. So this is another message I'd like to share with you. Because so many churches have been closed for services, because the people aren't there physically, they may be watching online. These churches may not be getting the offerings that they normally would. And churches like St. Augustine and churches like Victory Family Church, they take our offerings to bless other people here in Norman, in Oklahoma City, and overseas. And so I would encourage you, if you have not been in service and it just slipped your mind to actually give an offering, I do encourage you to give an offering really to any charitable organization or church that you feel led to do so. Year-end offerings can really help, and they can help these places bless other people. Another place that is looking to receive year-end offerings is K-Love, the radio station. I love K-Love. Before I came to Oklahoma, there was only K-Love. I didn't know about the House FM and some of the other Christian stations because in other places I've lived, there's only K-Love. So I am very thankful to K-Love for all the years before I came to Oklahoma, where I was able to listen to contemporary Christian music and get the encouraging messages from the DJs. And so I mentioned them. But again, your church, any Christian charitable organization, any interfaith charitable organization, wherever you feel led to give, I encourage you to do so. Because I know a lot of these organizations have not received the kind of offerings that they normally would in a year. So I just wanted to say that. Guys, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. I am grateful to you. Ever since I started this podcast in May of this year, and as I like to say, it was birthed from the pandemic, I have been so grateful to anyone who would listen. I love doing this. I love the messages that God has given me to share with you, the people He has put in my path to have interviews with and to share with you. It's been wonderful, and I definitely will continue next year and hope you will come along for the ride. And I want to wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. Love you guys.